this welcoming sound of the Dharma come to our ears, welcoming all people of every age and ethnicity and cultural heritage, religious background, and socioeconomic group, ability, sexual orientation, and gender identity. We study together and practice for the benefit of all beings and this living earth, recognizing the suffering that's caused by biases and prejudices and systems of power and privilege and oppression based on race, sex, class, age, ethnicity, religion, national origin, ability, sexual orientation, gender ability, identity, or expression. And we aspire to do no harm and to dismantle barriers that cause separation and suffering, recognizing that our liberation is interconnected with the liberation of all. And I also find it very important to acknowledge the land that we inhabit, that here in Portland, it's located in the lands of the Multnomah, the Clackamas, the Cowlitz, the 7 tribes of the Grand Ronde, and the 27 bands of confederated Silettes. And we respectfully acknowledge all the indigenous communities of the past and the present and the future. Acknowledging that the systemic policies of genocide and relocation and assimilation still have a great impact on many indigenous families today. And being grateful for their stewardship of these lands upon which I sit and each of you sit. Acknowledging the benefit that we continue to receive. And being committed to be mindful of making ongoing efforts to recognize their knowledge, their creativity, and their resilience. To all of those that have come before, the original makers and the artists and the healers, in support of their livelihood and their crafts and their sacred histories, and so many stories. And I also acknowledge the Asian ancestors of the Buddhist lineages, those of East Asia that began arriving in the New World in the 19th century, and United States, the immigrants from China. Many Buddhist congregations in North America are as diverse as the different peoples of Asian Buddhist countries who settled here. Sri Lankan Buddhists, Chinese Buddhists, Japanese Buddhists, Korean Buddhists, Thai Buddhists, Cambodian Buddhists, Vietnamese Buddhists. Most Buddhist countries and regions have family backgrounds. And so these Vietnamese and Theravadan practicing countries of Southeast Asia are the ones that I have followed the most. And just acknowledging our ancestors. And also those ancestors in various lineages that we may have studied in our practice. Some of you may have touched into other spiritual practices in Buddhism, Zen, other Buddhist lineages. But they all trace back to our current Buddha that we have been exposed to from 2,600 plus years ago, Sakyamuni Buddha. And so it is in great homage that I acknowledge and pay a debt of the joy of having heard the Dharma through so many avenues from so long ago, and the importance of the teachings themselves, and the importance of the Sangha, that this has come through monks and nuns and lay people and various translators. It changed through every country that it has gone through. Each country has a little bit different approach to how they view the Buddha's teachings, but they all have the basis of the Four Noble Truths. And the understanding of anicca and anatta and dukkha. And we get to experience that our very own self, no matter how many ways we've heard it from other teachers. So we take this opportunity to be present in this moment, feeling the support of the container, of each other in our place here together, as well as larger sanghas from which we might be a part of. Honoring the ethical, harmonious living of the 5 precepts. And having gratitude for ourselves for bringing us to this place in this cushion, in this seat tonight, or today, as the case may be. And as we settle, letting our bodies, hearts, and minds begin to feel maybe somewhat more integrated with each other as the body begins to relax a little more and come to this place, and the mind can calm down a little from busy activities of getting us here. However you are used to starting your sitting practice, may you allow mindfulness to be at the fore. You might settle in first in a touch point, feeling the buttocks on the cushion or wherever you're sitting, or feeling where the hands touch, or the eyelids or the lips. Just feeling a touch point, how the arms rest. Relaxing into this present moment. But sometimes if we start with a single object of attention, it can really help build our concentration and let the hindrances be abated. It could be at the touch point as a single point that we return to. It can be at the breath at the nostrils. Maybe noticing coolness through the nostrils on the inhale or warmth on the exhale. Or maybe we choose the diaphragm, where we can feel pressure on the inhale, and we can notice the difference between the inhale and the exhale as the diaphragm releases and there's more space. Whether we choose the breath at the nostrils or the diaphragm or a touch point, we can use that as our anchor. The attention at the breath and the teaching of the Ananapana Sutta. We are aware of whether the breath is a long breath or a short breath. Without manipulating it or changing it in any way, we're just aware. Mindfulness of the four. Mindfulness is there, mindful of the object arising. Awareness is there, paying attention to it, softly connecting with that single object until we notice anicca, that it changes. All conditioned things come together. They stay a certain amount of time and they fall apart. And we hold ourselves in kindness and compassion as we see this clearly, breath by breath. Noticing if it's a warm breath or a cool breath, rough or smooth. We may notice many times the mind wandering or a sensation in the body. Usually we notice it when we're somehow averse to it. Sometimes we notice pleasant sensations arising, or thoughts, or feelings. If we gently return to the breath or the touch point, in the Anapanasati Sutta, it's the breath itself, inhalation and exhalation. It's one of the fundamental forms of meditation taught by the Buddha. And classically, this form of meditation is part of the Eightfold Path, and it can lead to the removal of all the defilements, of all the hindrances, and to the attainment of nibbana, of freedom. It helps build concentration. And as we find ourselves relaxing and the mind calming, returning to this single object, less bothered by sleepiness or agitation or doubt or grasping or pushing away. Awareness is present and wisdom arises, so that we can have some clear insight into anicca, anatta, and dukkha with each moment that we're aware. Sometimes when we wake up in this present moment, we're a little confused about where we are or what we're doing, sort of lost in thought. We can just ask ourselves, what's happening in the mind right now? What's the attitude of the heart and mind? Or if tiredness is occurring, we can open our eyes and just let some light in. Or even stand in place or do walking practice. One step at a time, one breath at a time. What is happening now? What am I seeing clearly? Returning to the breath at the nostrils or the belly or the touch point. Beginning again. Or waking up right there in that moment. Noticing whatever was happening. We can make a soft, gentle note that it's pleasant or unpleasant. We can hold ourselves with kindness as we return again and again, training the mind, taming the mind, the heart and mind, citta. Which is why the simplicity of the single object, to keep us attentive, because we can really notice there that we can't hang on to it. No matter whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, it doesn't last. It's non-personal. We can't really identify with it. We can't make something pleasant stay or something unpleasant go away. And so we have this kindness for ourselves and compassion for ourselves when we wander off. And we just begin again. And that can be a joyous moment, an awakening moment of just beginning again. And we can employ some equanimity to not fall into extremes of judging ourselves, or perhaps noticing if we go off on an emotional roller coaster of some kind, we can notice it and let equanimity be present and just begin again, seeing clearly what's happening in the mind right now, what's happening in the heart. Can we keep our awareness one moment at a time? We may notice settling into this practice that we can experience the whole body breathing. The attention can expand. We can train to breathe in, experiencing the whole body, and breathing out, experiencing the whole body. We're training, breathing in, calming the bodily activity, and breathing out, calming the bodily activity. And we may notice with this calming of the bodily activity, we train to breathe in and breathe out, experiencing joy. We may notice mental activity, breathing in and breathing out. Calming that mental activity. Breathing in and breathing out. Calming the mental activity and experiencing the mind, gladdening the mind, steadying the mind, one breath at a time. We have this opportunity of contemplating impermanence, seeing clearly, having an interest in what is right here in this present moment, directly knowing its impermanent nature by seeing that it changes. And this kind of contemplating can show us dispassion, a cessation and a letting go of clinging and craving for the next moment to be different. And as we calm the bodily activity and calm the mental activity, gladdening and steadying the mind, we remind ourselves to have smile, an inner smile, noticing the joy that can arise, awakening in this moment, each moment, starting anew. It's stringing together moments of mindfulness. We have the habit to be critical of ourselves. As we make new experiences of acknowledging mental activity, calming and steadying of the mind, seeing clearly impermanence, the changing nature of everything as it arises, sticking with it with interest, there can be many joyous moments noticed, and we can hold ourselves kindly. Knowing that things are hard sometimes, and rather than criticize ourselves because we've wandered away or whatever else might be going on in the mind, we can have compassion for ourselves when things are challenging. But we know from these other beings that have experienced it that letting go is possible. And so we turn our hearts that have been contemplating the breath, the in and out breath, and the body, and the mental activity, and the mind, and the impermanent nature, and we hold it all within our hearts. And let kindness, wherever you activate that within yourself, however you touch upon this feeling that is of goodwill, something that might have caused you to really laugh lately. Let the heart be soft. And hold yourself in that kindness of the heart. We have this container of our breathing body, using gravity of sitting here in our noble seat, that we can hold within our container ourselves in kindness and compassion. And if that's hard to do right now, move on to a close friend, someone for whom it's easy to have kindness. Imagining them happy and healthy, having ease in their lives, letting this well-wishing, unconditional well-wishing encompass them in our hearts. Knowing that sometimes things are difficult for them, may we have compassion for them, and may they have compassion for themselves. as we have this container of the body, of our breath, may we include another person, a benefactor, a being from whom we've derived great benefit. It could be an animal, it could be a child, it could be our first Dhamma teacher, or a teacher that we're paying attention to these days, wishing them well-being, holding them in our hearts, feeling this generating of goodwill, boundless and unlimited. Easy to have this feeling for our friend and our benefactor, as it also nurtures ourselves. May you have ease in your life. May you be kind to yourself. May you have compassion when things are challenging. Appreciating the benefactor with boundless kindness and well-being. And it's not something that we have to conjure up if we can't really feel it. It just happens. It's cultivating. We're cultivating it. As we cultivate this loving kindness and generosity for ourselves and our friend and our benefactor, we also let it include neutral people or a neutral person, someone that you may have just seen today that you don't know, but you know just as I wish to be happy, they also wish to be happy. May we include other friends, family members, those that may be in sickness, or those that are in good health. Other neutral beings. Some who may be suffering. Some who may be in joy. Some who may be enlightened and unenlightened. Some we may have difficulties with. All beings wish to be happy and to be free from suffering. May we let this kindness flow in all directions, omitting none. As is indicated in the Metta Sutta of loving kindness, while it's translated to be in all directions, the north, the east, the south, the west, the northeast, the southeast, the southwest, the northwest, above and below, around and everywhere, omitting none, medium, short, or tall. omitting none, including those that might be challenging. But we have this sense of nurturing well-being generated from our hearts to include all. All beings everywhere wish to be happy and don't want to suffer. May all beings everywhere be free from harm, safe and protected. Anicca vata sankhara upadavaya domino upakita va meruchanti te samvapasamo sukho. All conditioned things are subject to impermanence. Conditions come together and fall apart. They arise and pass away. And seeing this clearly with mindfulness brings the greatest happiness, which is peace. And may the goodness in our practice be of benefit to ourselves and all beings. May we hold this training of breathing in and breathing out and calming the body and noticing mental activities. May we hold all that, as well as our kindness for ourselves and each other, to be able to share that a little with each other on the screen, allowing that sense of kindness that's been generated to touch on each of us. As we open our eyes and look around,